It was a typical day in Washington, D.C., or so everyone thought. The cameras were rolling, the lights blazed bright, and JD Vance sat calmly in his chair, ready to face another round of questions from the media. But little did anyone know, this interview would become one of the most talked about moments in recent history. JD Vance wasn't just any politician. He was an author, a veteran, and someone who had risen from humble beginnings to stand at the forefront of American politics. His story inspired millions, but it also made him a target for critics and skeptics alike. And today, he was about to meet one of those skeptics head-on. The TV host, known for her sharp tongue and no-holds-barred style, leaned forward with a smirk that seemed to say, "I've got you now." Her voice cut through the air like a knife as she fired off a question designed to trip him up. It wasn't just rude, it was personal. She brought up his past, twisting facts to paint him in the worst possible light. For a moment, the room fell silent. Everyone waited to see how JD would respond. But JD didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned back slightly, his expression calm but firm. With every word he spoke, the studio grew quieter. What followed was a response so powerful, so unexpected, that it left not only the host speechless but the entire nation buzzing. Do you think JD let her walk all over him, or do you think he delivered a comeback so strong it changed the conversation forever? Keep watching because what happens next will shock you. JD took a deep breath before answering. His voice was steady, carrying a weight that silenced even the loudest whispers in the room. "You know," he began, his eyes locking onto hers, "it's easy to sit behind a desk and judge people's lives without knowing the full picture. But let me tell you something about where I come from." He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. The host shifted uncomfortably in her seat, clearly unprepared for this turn of events. JD continued, his tone measured yet filled with conviction. "I grew up in a place where opportunities weren't handed to you. You had to fight for them. My family wasn't rich. We didn't have connections or fancy degrees. What we did have was resilience, and a belief that hard work could change our circumstances." The audience listening at home could feel the tension building. This wasn't just some politician spouting cliches. JD was speaking from experience, and it showed. Every word carried authenticity, striking a chord with viewers across the country. But the host wasn't done yet. She tried again, throwing another jab, hoping to rattle him. "So Mr. Vance," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "does your success mean everyone else should follow the same path? Is failure simply a lack of effort?" This time JD smiled, not out of amusement, but out of confidence. He leaned forward slightly, making sure every camera captured his response. "Failure isn't always about effort," he replied. "Sometimes, it's about the system failing people before they even get started. But here's the thing. Instead of tearing each other down, maybe we should focus on building each other up." His words hit hard. They weren't just a rebuttal, they were a challenge. A challenge to rethink the way society treats its most vulnerable members. The host stumbled over her next question, clearly thrown off balance by JD's composure and clarity. And then came the moment that truly stunned everyone. JD delivered a line so powerful, it became an instant talking point nationwide. "If you want to talk about my background," he said, his voice rising slightly, "then let's also talk about the millions of Americans who faced similar struggles. Let's stop focusing on tearing individuals apart and start working together to build a better future." The studio fell silent. Even the host seemed lost for words. For once, the tables had been turned, and JD Vance had emerged victorious, not through anger or aggression, but through wisdom and grace. As the interview continued, it became clear that JD wasn't just defending himself. He was fighting for something bigger, a vision of America rooted in fairness, opportunity, and unity. The host, now visibly flustered, attempted one final question, hoping to regain control of the narrative. "So Mr. Vance," she said, her voice tinged with desperation, "what makes you think your solutions will work when so many others have failed?" JD didn't hesitate. "Because my solutions aren't based on theories or political agendas," he replied firmly. "They're based on reality, on the struggles I've seen firsthand, on the people I've met along the way who deserve better than what they're getting." He paused, allowing his words to resonate. Then he added, "We talk a lot about division in this country, but the truth is, we're stronger together. If we can set aside our differences and focus on what matters, jobs, education, healthcare, we can make real progress. But if all we do is point fingers and tear each other down, nothing will ever change." The audience watching at home couldn't help but feel inspired. JD wasn't just another politician spouting empty promises. He was someone who understood the challenges ordinary Americans faced every day, someone who spoke their language and shared their dreams. Meanwhile, the host struggled to maintain her composure. Her initial confidence had given way to uncertainty, and her attempts to steer the conversation back to her agenda fell flat. JD, however, remained unfazed. He knew exactly what he wanted to say, and more importantly, how to say it. And then came the twist no one saw coming. As the interview drew to a close, the host asked one last question, seemingly out of nowhere. "Mr. Vance, if you could leave our viewers with one message today, what would it be?" JD smiled, his expression warm yet determined. "That change starts with us," he said simply. "Not with politicians, not with celebrities, but with everyday people like you and me. When we come together, when we support each other, there's nothing we can't achieve." The studio erupted in applause, and even the host found herself nodding in agreement. It was a rare moment of unity, in a world often divided by politics and ideology, and JD Vance had done it, not through shouting or insults, but through empathy and understanding. As the cameras faded to black, the impact of JD Vance's words lingered in the air. His response had not only dismantled the host's attempts to undermine him, but also sparked a national conversation about unity, resilience, and the power of ordinary people to drive change. Viewers across the country reacted immediately. Social media exploded with praise for JD's poise and clarity. Hashtags like #JDVance for change and #real leadership began trending as people shared clips of the interview, eager to spread his message far and wide. But the story didn't end there. In the days that followed, JD's popularity soared. People from all walks of life, blue-collar workers, small business owners, teachers, parents, began sharing their own stories of struggle and triumph. Inspired by JD's example, they saw in him a leader who understood their pain and offered hope for a brighter future. The host, on the other hand, faced backlash for her aggressive line of questioning. Many criticized her lack of empathy and fairness, calling for more balanced journalism. Some even questioned whether she was truly committed to fostering meaningful dialogue, or simply looking for ratings-grabbing headlines. As for JD, he remained humble despite the newfound attention. In interviews and speeches, he continued to emphasize the importance of collaboration and compassion. "This isn't about me," he often said. "It's about creating a world where everyone has a fair shot at success." Now here's the question everyone's asking: what's next for JD Vance? Will he use this moment to further his political career? Or will he step back and focus on empowering others to lead the charge? One thing is certain, his voice will continue to resonate long after the dust settles. So what do you think? Do you agree with JD's approach? Should leaders focus on uniting rather than dividing? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more gripping stories like this one. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.